Welcome to our series exploring the enigmatic realm of unexplained deaths and mysteries. Join us as we delve into perplexing cases that defy conventional understanding, where each clue raises more questions.
The disappearance of Paula Jean Welden remains one of the most enduring mysteries in American history. On December 1, 1946, 18-year-old Paula, a sophomore at Bennington College in Vermont, went for a hike on the Long Trail, a popular trail in the Green Mountains. She told her roommate she intended to take a break from studying and explore the trail, leaving campus around 2:45 p.m. Dressed in light clothing and without significant gear, she was ill-prepared for the cold weather and potential challenges of the hike. Witnesses reported seeing her on the trail near Glastonbury Mountain, but she was never seen again. When Paula failed to return to her dormitory that evening, her roommates assumed she had stayed out longer than planned. However, when she missed classes the following day, concern grew. Her parents, who lived in Stamford, Connecticut, were notified and a large-scale search began. Hundreds of volunteers, state police, and even members of the FBI participated, scouring the area by foot, horseback, and air. Despite these efforts, no trace of Paula was found. The search revealed no clothing, personal belongings, or signs of a struggle, deepening the mystery. Paula's disappearance led to widespread speculation and numerous theories. Some believed she had fallen victim to foul play, possibly from a stranger or someone she knew. Others speculated she succumbed to the elements or had an accident, and her body was never found in the rugged terrain. There were even suggestions she intentionally disappeared, starting a new life elsewhere, though no evidence supported this. The case highlighted deficiencies in Vermont's law enforcement system at the time. The state had no official state police force, relying instead on local sheriffs and volunteers for such investigations. This lack of resources and coordination likely hampered the search efforts. In response, Vermont established the Vermont State Police in 1947, partly inspired by the lessons learned from the Welden case. To this day, Paula's disappearance remains unsolved. It has become a part of local folklore, contributing to the legend of the Bennington Triangle, an area reportedly associated with strange disappearances and unexplained phenomena. While the lack of closure continues to haunt those connected to the case, Paula's story is a reminder of the fragility of life and the enduring mystery of the unknown. The death of Kendrick Johnson is a deeply troubling and controversial case that has attracted national and international attention. Kendrick, a 17-year-old high school student, was found dead on January 11, 2013, inside a rolled-up gym mat at Lowndes High School in Valdosta, Georgia. His body was discovered in a vertical position, headfirst in the mat, which was stored in an upright position in the school's gym. The initial investigation by local authorities concluded that Kendrick's death was a tragic accident, suggesting he had fallen into the mat while attempting to retrieve a pair of shoes and became trapped. However, this explanation was met with widespread skepticism and outrage, particularly from Kendrick's family and supporters. The Johnson family has consistently disputed the official ruling, citing evidence they believe points to foul play. A private autopsy commissioned by the family contradicted the findings of the initial investigation, concluding that Kendrick died from unexplained, apparent non-accidental blunt force trauma. This finding fueled suspicions of a possible cover-up and intensified public scrutiny of the case. The circumstances surrounding the handling of evidence also raised significant concerns. For example, parts of Kendrick's body were missing when his family exhumed his body for the private autopsy, and newspapers were found stuffed in place of some internal organs, which authorities later explained as standard practice after organ removal during an autopsy. The case has been reopened multiple times due to public pressure, including a federal investigation initiated in 2014. However, no charges have been filed, and the official cause of death remains accidental positional asphyxia. Allegations of racial bias, mishandling of evidence, and obstruction of justice have loomed over the case, especially since Kendrick was black, and there have been accusations that individuals connected to influential families may have been involved. Kendrick Johnson's death remains an unresolved mystery and a painful example of the limitations of the legal and investigative system for many Americans. It has become a rallying point for activists advocating for greater transparency, accountability, and justice in cases involving young Black lives. Despite years of advocacy and investigation, Kendrick's family continues to seek answers and accountability for their son's death, ensuring that the case remains in the public eye.
The Pascagoula Abduction is one of the most famous alien encounter stories in the United States, occurring on the evening of October 11, 1973. Two co-workers, Charles Hickson, 42, and Calvin Parker, 19, were fishing on the banks of the Pascagoula River in Mississippi when they experienced something they claimed was utterly extraordinary. According to their accounts, a strange craft descended near their location, emitting a blue light and a mechanical buzzing sound. Before they could react, three bizarre humanoid-like beings emerged and floated toward them. The beings were described as humanoid but distinctly non-human. They were approximately 5 feet tall, pale and wrinkled, with claw-like hands, no discernible eyes, and strange cone-shaped structures where their ears and noses would typically be. The entities seemed to hover above the ground rather than walk. Hickson and Parker claimed they were paralyzed and levitated into the craft by these beings. Hickson and Parker claimed they were paralyzed and levitated into the craft by these beings. Inside the craft, Hickson recalled undergoing a physical examination by what he described as a robotic eye or device that scanned his body. Parker, though reportedly conscious, later stated that he remembered little of the events inside the UFO because he was too terrified and may have fainted. The entire ordeal lasted about 20 minutes, after which they were released back to the riverbank, unharmed but deeply shaken. The men reported the encounter to local law enforcement that night. Having reported the encounter to local law enforcement that night, initially officers were skeptical, but hidden tape recordings of the two men talking privately revealed them discussing their fears and confusion about the experience, lending credibility to their story. Their consistent accounts, coupled with their visible emotional distress, intrigued investigators. Over the years, Hickson and Parker's story has been subjected to scrutiny by skeptics and researchers alike. Having both, Hickson and Parker's story had been subjected to scrutiny by skeptics and researchers alike. The case remains one of the most compelling in UFO lore due to the witnesses' credibility and the lack of evidence of hoaxing. Calvin Parker, who initially avoided the spotlight, later came forward in his later years to further elaborate on his experience, which he maintained until his death in 2022. Skeptics have suggested that stress, hallucinations, or sleep paralysis might explain the incident, but believers in extraterrestrial encounters view the Pascagoula abduction as one of the most authentic and well-documented UFO encounters in history. Deep in the heart of Australia's arid outback lies a mystery as vast as the desert that surrounds it. This is the story of the Marree Man, a colossal geoglyph etched into the earth, whose origins remain a tantalizing enigma. Stretching over 4 kilometers, the figure depicts what appears to be an indigenous hunter, spear or boomerang in hand, a symbol of ancient culture, but created by unknown hands in the late 20th century. To this day, the question lingers: who made it and why?
You know, Lisa, every time I fly over that thing, it gives me the chills. 4 kilometers long, smack in the middle of nowhere. How does something like that just appear?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I mean, think about it. No one saw it being made. No trucks, no workers, no noise. Just one day, bam! There it was, etched into the desert like it had always been there.
I remember when Trevor Wright spotted it back in '98. Said he was flying low looking for feral camels and saw this shape. Thought he was seeing things at first.
And the way it's drawn. An Aboriginal hunter, but not quite right. The proportions, the style, almost like someone was imitating Aboriginal art without really understanding it.
Makes you wonder. Locals? Tourists? A crazy artist? Couldn't have been an easy job, though. You'd need GPS, heavy equipment, and a bloody good plan. The desert doesn't exactly hand you tools.
Exactly. And don't forget those weird faxes. The ones with American spellings and measurements in yards and miles. Whoever sent those was toying with us, dropping hints but never enough to solve the puzzle.
Yeah, like that one line about it being a gift to Australia. Some reckon it's got an American connection, maybe even military folks. They've got the tech and the secrecy for something like this.
But why? If it was some grand gesture or a publicity stunt, wouldn't they have come forward by now, claimed their fame?
Unless it went wrong. Maybe they wanted the attention but chickened out when they realized it could stir up legal or cultural trouble.
That's another thing. It's on Dairy land, sacred to the Aboriginal people. If it wasn't made by someone local, it feels disrespectful. Like they used the culture for a stunt without understanding the meaning behind it.
True. And yet, some folks think it's just a really big prank. You know, someone with too much time and a twisted sense of humor.
A prank? Come on, Joe, that's more than a prank, that's a bloody mission. The lines are so precise, it had to be done from the air. And you'd need bulldozers for those trenches. Not exactly a one-man job.
Maybe it was aliens. You know, like the Nazca lines in Peru. Giant signs for some otherworldly visitor.
Oh, sure. Aliens with a taste for Australian iconography. Makes perfect sense. But you're right, it's a bit like the Nazca lines. Big, bold, and baffling.
And then there's the restoration. Locals went out there a few years back to retrace the lines, make sure it didn't fade completely. Funny, isn't it? Something no one asked for, and yet we've kind of adopted it.
Yeah. Love it or hate it, it's become part of the landscape. A symbol of mystery, maybe even a bit of pride. It's ours now, even if we don't know where it came from.
And maybe that's the beauty of it. The Marree Man is like the desert itself, timeless, mysterious, and refusing to give up all its secrets.
The Marree Man stands as a testament to human curiosity and the allure of the unknown. Who carved its lines? Why did they choose this place, this figure? The answers remain hidden beneath the shifting sands, leaving only questions for those who dare to wonder.
The disappearance of Tara Calico is one of the most enduring mysteries in American crime history. Tara Calico, a 19-year-old college student, vanished on the morning of September 20th, 1988 in Belen, New Mexico. She left her home to go on a bike ride along her usual route, a stretch of State Road 47, but never returned. Tara's mother, Patty Dole, grew concerned when Tara failed to come home and contacted authorities. Her Walkman and pieces of a cassette tape were later found along the roadside, suggesting she might have dropped them during an abduction attempt. Tara's case drew national attention in 1989 when a Polaroid photograph was found in a parking lot in Port St. Joe, Florida. The image depicted a young woman and a boy, both bound and gagged in the back of what appeared to be a van. The girl bore a strong resemblance to Tara, and her mother believed it was her, citing details such as a scar on the woman's leg. The boy in the photo was speculated to be Michael Henley, another New Mexico child who had gone missing around the same time. However, Michael's remains were later found in the Zuni Mountains, where he had apparently died of exposure, complicating the connection to Tara. Over the years, numerous theories have emerged. Some suggest she was abducted and killed by someone she encountered on her bike ride. Others believe she was a victim of human trafficking or a more complex criminal conspiracy. While suspects have been named and leads pursued, no definitive answers have been found. In 2021, renewed efforts by law enforcement, aided by advancements in technology, have focused on resolving this cold case, but no breakthrough has occurred. Tara Calico's disappearance remains an open case, symbolizing both the pain of unresolved loss and the hope for justice that drives ongoing investigations. The story continues to captivate the public, serving as a haunting reminder of the enduring mysteries surrounding missing persons cases.
Oscar Zeta Acosta's disappearance is one of the most enduring mysteries tied to the Chicano movement and the countercultural era of the 1960s and 70s. Born in 1935 in El Paso, Texas, Acosta grew up in California and became a lawyer, novelist, and activist whose work was deeply intertwined with his identity as a Chicano and his critiques of systemic injustice. His writings, combined with his larger-than-life persona, made him a controversial and iconic figure. However, his sudden disappearance in 1974 has left many questions unanswered, fueling speculation and myth-making around his life and fate. Acosta's life was marked by a combination of brilliance, excess, and radicalism. He rose to prominence in the late 1960s and early 1970s as a lawyer defending activists in the Chicano movement. One of his most famous cases involved representing the Brown Berets, a militant Chicano group advocating for Mexican-American civil rights. He also ran for sheriff of Los Angeles County in 1970, using his campaign as a platform to highlight police brutality and racial inequality. Beyond his legal work, Acosta was a gifted writer whose semi-autobiographical novels, The Autobiography of a Brown Buffalo, published in 1972, and The Revolt of the Cockroach People, published in 1973, captured the struggles, frustrations, and resilience of Chicano communities. These works blended humor, rage, and introspection, making them essential contributions to American literature. Acosta's friendship with Gonzo journalist Hunter S. Thompson added another layer to his mystique. Acosta was immortalized as the eccentric and larger-than-life Dr. Gonzo in Thompson's seminal work, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, published in 1971. The character's outrageous antics reflected Acosta's real-life penchant for pushing boundaries, whether in his activism, courtroom performances, or personal life. This association with Thompson helped Acosta gain wider recognition, but some critics argue it overshadowed his serious contributions to Chicano literature and activism. By 1974, Acosta's life was marked by increasing instability. He struggled with drug addiction, erratic behavior, and the personal toll of his activism. In May of that year, he traveled to Mazatlan, Mexico, seeking a reprieve or possibly inspiration for his next project. The last known contact was a phone call to his son, Marco, during which Acosta cryptically mentioned boarding a boat with white snow. This phrase has been interpreted as a metaphor for drugs, or as an indication of foul play. Acosta was never heard from again, and despite investigations, no trace of him was ever found. Theories about his disappearance abound. Some suggest he was murdered, possibly due to his political activism or involvement in drug circles. Others believe he may have been the victim of an accident or even staged his own disappearance to escape the pressures of his tumultuous life. His son Marco has expressed the belief that Acosta was likely killed in Mexico, given the political and criminal climate of the region at the time. Acosta's disappearance has become as much a part of his legacy as his writings and activism. It has cemented his status as a mysterious and romanticized figure, embodying the struggles and contradictions of the Chicano experience in mid-20th century America. His works continue to resonate with readers and activists, ensuring that his voice remains a vital part of the ongoing dialogue about identity, justice, and cultural pride. While the mystery of his disappearance remains unsolved, it has only amplified the enduring fascination with his life and work, keeping Oscar Zeta Acosta firmly entrenched in the pantheon of radical American figures.
On a chilly April evening in 1876, in the stately confines of the Priory, a house nestled in the London suburb of Balham, a man lay writhing in agony. His name was Charles Bravo, a young and ambitious barrister whose future seemed secure by his marriage to the wealthy Florence Riccardo. But as he clutched his stomach, his face twisted in pain, Bravo's life ebbed away in a horrifying spectacle that would grip Victorian England for decades. The cause? Poison, antimony, a deadly substance commonly used in small doses as medicine, but lethal when administered improperly. The death shocked society not merely because of its gruesome nature, but due to the dark web of intrigue it unraveled. 3 days passed between Bravo's first cries of pain and his eventual death, yet in all that time the dying man said little that could illuminate his fate. What exactly happened in the Priory? Who was responsible for his untimely end? Now imagine standing in a small, dimly lit drawing room of the house during those tense days.
Jane, I don't know what to say anymore. The doctors, they look at me as though I've done something terrible. But what could I have done? Charles, he barely spoke before he...
Florence was no stranger to scandal. Before marrying Bravo, she'd been a widow with a tarnished reputation, largely due to her passionate and unconventional affair with Dr. James Gully, a respected but much older physician. Society whispered that Florence married Charles Bravo to restore her good name, but it was no secret that their union was far from harmonious. Bravo, domineering and controlling, was said to resent Florence's independence and her past. Theirs was a marriage fraught with tension, an open secret in their circle.
Madam, you've nothing to explain to anyone. You were upstairs when Charles fell ill. Whatever happened to him, it wasn't your doing.
But they don't care, do they, Jane? The inquest, the doctors. They'll dredge up everything. They'll talk about James Gully again, about my past. They'll say I poisoned him, that I wanted to be rid of him. But why would I? Why would I bring such disgrace on myself?
It was true that Florence had much to lose. Poisoning her husband would have exposed her to scandal and disgrace, perhaps even the gallows. Yet the rumours persisted. The doctors who attended Bravo suspected foul play, but no one could agree on the culprit. Some wondered if Florence had indeed been pushed to desperation. Others whispered that Jane Cox herself might have had a hand in the tragedy.
I don't mean to speak ill of the dead, madam, but Mr. Bravo, he wasn't kind to you, or to anyone in this house. Perhaps someone else decided to take matters into their own hands.
What are you saying, Jane? You think someone, one of the servants, perhaps?
All I'm saying is that there are secrets in this house, madam, and sometimes secrets have a way of surfacing when you least expect.
The relationship between Florence and Jane was itself a subject of speculation during the inquest. Jane, a widow with her own struggles, had worked for Florence even before her marriage to Bravo and was fiercely loyal. Some suggested that Jane might have acted out of misplaced devotion to Florence, seeking to rid her mistress of an unhappy marriage. Others thought Jane simply knew more than she let on. As the inquest progressed, more questions than answers emerged. Had Bravo accidentally poisoned himself while self-medicating? Was Florence the desperate wife driven to murder by her husband's alleged cruelty? Or was Jane Cox the true architect of the tragedy, acting in Florence's defense, or perhaps for her own mysterious reasons?
They'll never believe me, Jane. No matter what I say, no matter what I do. Charles is dead, and now I'll be judged for it.
And judged she was. Florence Bravo's reputation was tarnished yet again, though the jury eventually returned an open verdict. They could not determine how Charles Bravo came to ingest the poison that killed him. To this day, the mystery remains unresolved. The truth, whether it lies in Florence's despair, Jane's loyalty, or some accident or misstep, died with Charles Bravo on that fateful night in 1876. The case stands as a testament to the shadows that linger in even the grandest of homes and the secrets that time cannot erase. In the heart of Vatican City, a mystery has lingered for over 4 decades. The disappearance of Emanuela Orlandi. The 15-year-old girl, a Vatican citizen, vanished on a summer evening in 1983 after attending a music lesson near Piazza Sant'Apollinare in Rome. What began as a routine day for Emanuela soon spiraled into one of the most perplexing cases in modern history, shrouded in layers of conspiracy, crime, and unanswered questions. Let us delve into this enigma through the voices of 2 investigators, Anna, a journalist passionate about justice, and Luca, a seasoned investigator.
It's hard to believe, Luca. A young girl disappears from the streets of Rome, and 40 years later, we still don't know what happened. The theories, they're endless. Some say it was tied to the mafia, others claim it was a political kidnapping. And then there's the Vatican. Always the Vatican. What do you think happened?
Anna, this case is like peeling an onion. Every layer you uncover reveals another one beneath it. The Vatican's silence over the years is deafening. Think about it. A 15-year-old girl, a citizen of the smallest but one of the most powerful states in the world, goes missing. And the official response? Practically nothing. Suspicious, to say the least.
And let's not forget Mehmet Ali Agha, the man who shot Pope John Paul II. He claims Emanuela was kidnapped to demand his release. But is that even credible? It feels too convenient, like a distraction from the truth.
Convenient, yes, but worth considering. Agha's claims can't be ignored entirely. Remember, the Cold War was still in full swing in the 80s, and the Vatican wasn't just a religious institution, it was a political player. If someone wanted to pressure the Vatican, kidnapping Emanuela might have seemed like a way to do it.
What about the Mafia, Luca? The Banda della Magliana? They were powerful in Rome during the 80s, and some believe they kidnapped Emanuela over a debt the Vatican Bank owed them. Could it be that simple?
Simple? No. Plausible? Maybe. The Banda della Magliana was deeply entwined with Vatican financial dealings, and it's no secret the Vatican Bank was involved in some shady business back then. But here's the thing, Anna, if it was the Mafia, where's the proof? And why hasn't anyone come forward after all this time?
Fear, perhaps? Or maybe the truth implicates people who are untouchable. Remember the Teutonic Cemetery incident in 2019? The Vatican allowed 2 tombs to be opened after an anonymous tip, only to find nothing. It's as if every lead is a game of smoke and mirrors.
Indeed, the Teutonic Cemetery search was one of many false starts. Yet the reopening of the investigation in 2023 signals a glimmer of hope for the Orlandi family. For Anna and Luca, and for those who still care about Emanuela's fate, the case is far from closed.
So, Luca, after all these years, what's your gut feeling? Will we ever know what happened to Emanuela?
My gut tells me the answers are there, locked away in Vatican vaults or hidden in the memories of people too afraid to speak. The question is whether the Vatican or anyone else has the courage to reveal them. Until then, Emanuela remains a symbol, a reminder of how easily the powerful can obscure the truth.
And so the mystery of Emanuela Orlandi endures, a haunting tale of a girl lost and a world unwilling or unable to find her.
The disappearance of Richey Edwards, the guitarist and lyricist of the Manic Street Preachers, remains one of music's most enduring mysteries. Edwards vanished on February 1, 1995, at the age of 27, shortly before the band was set to embark on an American tour. He was last confirmed to have checked out of the Embassy Hotel in London early that morning. 2 weeks later, his car, a Vauxhall Cavalier, was discovered abandoned near the Severn Bridge. Despite extensive searches and investigations, no conclusive evidence has ever emerged to determine his fate. Richey Edwards was an enigmatic figure. celebrated for his emotionally charged introspective lyrics that explored themes of identity, alienation, and human fragility. His personal challenges, including struggles with mental health, self-image, and self-harm, were evident in his interviews and artistic expressions, lending his work a profound, haunting depth. These struggles, combined with his sudden disappearance, deepened the intrigue surrounding his story and led to endless speculation. In the years since, there have been numerous reported sightings of Edwards in places as far-flung as Goa, India, and as close as Newport, Wales. None of these reports have been substantiated, but they've fueled theories about his fate, ranging from a deliberate decision to step away from public life to circumstances that remain unknowable. Despite the discovery of his car, no further evidence has been found to explain what happened after he left the Embassy Hotel that morning. In 2008, Richey Edwards was declared presumed dead under UK law, a decision made for legal purposes, but one that left many unanswered questions. His family, fans, and even his bandmates have reflected on the uncertainty of his story. The Manic Street Preachers chose to honor his memory by continuing their work as a three-piece band and paying tribute through their music. The album Journal for Plague Lovers, released in 2009 for instance, was created entirely using lyrics Edwards had written before his disappearance, keeping his voice alive in their creative journey. Edwards' disappearance has since become a powerful cultural mystery, symbolizing unresolved questions and the weight of loss. Fans continue to ponder what might have happened, drawn by the deep connection he forged through his art. Whether remembered as a brilliant lyricist, a complex individual, or an icon of unanswered questions, Richey Edwards' legacy remains timeless. The case of Kaspar Hauser is one of history's enduring mysteries, shrouded in intrigue and speculation. Kaspar Hauser appeared seemingly out of nowhere on May 26, 1828, in Nuremberg, Germany. He was a young man of about 16 years, dressed in ragged clothes and carrying a letter addressed to a local cavalry captain. The letter claimed that he had been raised in near-total isolation and knew little of the outside world. Hauser could barely speak or walk properly, and his behavior suggested he had been confined for much of his life. This strange arrival sparked public curiosity and launched numerous theories about his identity. According to Hauser, he had been kept in a small, dark room for as long as he could remember. He claimed that a man had taken care of him but never revealed his face. This mysterious caretaker would feed him and teach him a few words, but kept him isolated until his sudden release. Hauser's limited speech and unusual behavior were seen as evidence supporting his story. His case became a sensation, with some believing he was a member of European royalty, possibly the missing heir to the throne of Baden. Others dismissed him as a fraud or an abandoned child from a poor family. Hauser's life took a darker turn in the years following his appearance. He was taken in by various guardians who sought to educate him and uncover his true identity. However, he became the target of multiple alleged attacks. In 1829, he claimed he was assaulted by a masked man who warned him to stay silent. This fueled theories that someone wanted to silence him and suppress his potential royal lineage. The mystery deepened on December 14, 1833, when Hauser was found with a stab wound in his chest. He died 3 days later, claiming that he had been lured to his death by a man who promised to reveal more about his origins. A note allegedly written by the killer was found near the scene, but its authenticity remains debated. Some believe Hauser inflicted the wound himself, perhaps as part of a scheme gone wrong, while others think he was murdered to protect a powerful secret. To this day, the identity of Kaspar Hauser and the truth behind his life remain unresolved. Some historians argue he was a psychologically troubled individual who fabricated his story for attention. Others point to inconsistencies in his accounts and speculate that he might have been a victim of royal intrigue. Modern forensic studies of Hauser's remains and artifacts have yielded inconclusive results, leaving the case open to interpretation. The story of Kaspar Hauser continues to captivate and mystify, inspiring books, films, and debates about identity, deception, and human resilience.
Thank you for joining us on this exploration of the unexplained. We hope these mysteries have sparked your curiosity and encouraged you to delve deeper into the unknown. Until next time, stay curious, stay vigilant, and never stop seeking the truth.